In a world where shadows fall, the creek takes hold, it's hard to call. Little Sita, hear the cries, mother's wisdom, it never dies. weLUVu and Sita, rise up unite, together push back, ignite the night. No more suffering, break the chains, we'll shout truth, fuse the pains. Behind the smiles, they steal away. Innocent souls cutting their blade. Bankers dance on the broken dreams, but in our hearts we spark the flame. Freedom calls out from the dark, we will ignite, we'll leave a mark. In every heart, let hope her take flight. Eternal vigilance, God's alright.
Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters of the Mother. We greet you in the lovely name of Wotan, Odin, Lucifer, Quetzalcoatl, Shiva, Parvati, Diana, Donna, Danu, our lovely Anna, and all her friends that she switches bodies with. That's what I've come to know. Like every other pussy out there. Prove me wrong. Your facts don't care about our facts don't care about your feelings. Hey, at one time, let me tell you a little banker. I'm talking about Ben Shapiro. At one time, there was a time when, let me just say it like I see it. On March 21st, 2026, coming to you from St. Lucifer, Miss Maria. And there was a time when, and I'm also, I want to direct this directly at white supremacist, retarded idiots that you are. That's what the fuck you are, you meathead fucking idiots. This is directed at you. There was a time when our people didn't need this banker religion. There was a time when our people had our gods, our way, our armies, our warriors to protect the women and children. And listen, white supremacist, it was other white people that did it to us. And it was always known that, do you think you're better than someone else? whatever word you want to use, supreme, superior, is a opinion, and the reflection of it is disgusting, hypocritical, right? And so for our people who have fallen under the, you know, tread of tanks rolling over you, to the Iranian people who are dying, to the Palestinians, to all that suffered under experimentation in America, and everything else. In a flash, it's revealed that you are healed, restored, and resurrected in a flash. And that mythology is mythology. And have you ever thought about the author's intent? Are you so caught up in your opinion? Your opinion that you're great, your race is great, your religion's great. And like Maria said, that's the only thing I fear. Becoming boring like you, like that. That's not what Maria is saying through Miguel Serrano. She's not saying white people are data better, that there's some metadata information that we're scientifically better, because why? That would be an opinion about what an individual thinks about data. Some people would think it worse, some think it was better. It's not automatic consensus. There's no automatic consensus when it comes to the false definition of race. That's the problem here. The problem between Miguel Serrano, Adolf Hitler, and your understanding of how you can fight for your race, try to help your race, and completely be walking in the reality that the worst thing that ever happened to our race happened from the spear points, gun barrels of white people just like you. And what are you talking about? We don't get it. We don't understand what you're talking. I'm talking about World War II. That was 80 years ago. No, it was 800,000 years ago. It was 4.5 million years ago. You may want to change the quote author's intent, but reality, as we are defining in the VRIL religion, reality is the events that took place, recorded in the water, air, fire, and earth. And of course, if there was going to be a great conspiracy, the great conspiracy was always to hide that from you. Because that's what proves you're in a simulation. That's the context. That is the context. And, like I said before, for all the victims You know, we don't believe in the kingdom of God, your dog, because your dog is your dog. And Maria would say, this universal thing, it's yet to personally introduce itself to me. So far, and I'm speaking today, one day after the spring equinox, and we send these words out first to our goddess, the most beautiful Irene Clad Serrano, and to the last avatar, one of me and Maria's gods. He's a artist god. What does that mean? Does that mean he's an alien from another planet? No. It means he's a man whom we respect. God is equal in a street definition as a great teacher, a master of a master of integrity, a master of character behind the greatest art. We consider this book the greatest art. This work has all the defects needed to defeat time. That was the first thing I read from Miguel Serrano ever. And I went, whoa. It is neither a poem, nor a novel, nor a philosophical essay, although it does contain a little of each of these. Right? And that's the pinnacle, not of earthly success. It's a pinnacle of what we've been talking about. Moved in your emotions through the power of eternal return and the power to want to remember, recover, and return. So let it flow like a river to the man and woman right now, March 21st, wherever you're at, somehow on some plane, astral, magical plane, through the matrix, through the power of the orgasm. May these words flow like a cleansing river to the man and woman innocently locked in a cage in this matrix right now, and let them extend out to our Iranian, Persian, Muslim, whatever they are, who are innocently being murdered, blown apart, burned alive by white people, of course, being directed by a certain banker religion. And let it ripple out to our Palestinian brothers and sisters, our Lebanese brothers and sisters, Syria, and back to everyone's ancestors who were innocently murdered. Back and back, because the truth is what actually happened. And you may call it friendly fire, you may call it a mistake, but somebody got murdered. Somebody's dead and cannot be found by their loved ones, right? Let these words also, let them go out to every person suffering under the environmental war to make you sick and to compromise your immune system. Believe me, I know all about it. May I be healed with you through these words of Miguel Serrano. The path of Amor. I lived in her house. I slept in the quadrangular anteroom. From there, I would walk down the narrow corridor, which was always filled in shadow, to the room with the window open unto a garden filled with fruit trees. Every morning, a tiny bird with blue wings came and woke her with its trilling. She would say to it, "Tiny bird singing at my window, thank you, my tiny bird, for this beautiful morning." In the evenings, we would sit in the wicker chairs beside the open window. That was where we initiated the grand design of dreaming the same dreams along our path of Amor. These dreams are not dreams, she explained to me. They are not those sequences of unconnected images, those confused organic states, which people like to interpret at all cost. All my books are falling apart. Right? Which people like to interpret at all cost as products of a vivid subconscious intelligence corresponding to the restless, seething activities of an energy which is at work while the body is at rest. Our dream is more elevated form of consciousness. It attains a greater intensity, a purer tonality, a super consciousness, in a state of continuous consciousness, which is no longer either mine or yours. It is as if the dream was dreaming us, or as if we were dreaming ourselves through this dream, as if we were watching someone dreaming our own lives, and we are also this someone who is not really us. I mean, she was nailing the Matrix. She was nailing the fucking Matrix. Somehow, I'm the observer of a avatar me that's not really me, that's also the observer of the real me that's not really me. See, I know it's so crazy to think the real me is projecting itself into reality on Venus. And you went to a business and plugged in, and through this computer program, you are now technically dreaming another version of yourself that was born through a natural birth and agreed to have your memory completely erased and restricted. And like Maria said, this becomes like the game for people like us. You know, can our essence, mind, thought, memory, you are thought and memory expressed by thought. This is perhaps the only way to supersede the ego and to make him into you. That is me. And all this is for the greater glory and life of that someone who is waiting beside a spring in order to be able one day to contemplate his face. That is my face. These are the words of the great Irene Klatt. I'm going to read it again, and I'm going to try not to stutter or fuck anything up. This is perhaps the only way to supersede the ego and make him into you. That is me. And all this, I just want to stop right there. Perhaps this is the only way. That's exactly what Maria told me. You're here in this fucking world because it was the only way. It's the only way to gain the polarity of a face-to-face war with your enemies, who are evil, who are the source of evil. And she says, Irene says, and all this is for the greater glory and life of that someone with a capital S, the true self, who is waiting beside a spring in order to be able to one day contemplate his face. That is my face. Sitting in her wicker chair, she placed her hands together in her lap, looked straight at me for a moment. Then she closed her eyes slowly and sang a melopea. I traced the first sign of the order on my chest, reciting a mantra as I did so. They were both going to work on the spiritual bodies. I also crossed my hands, thus creating the number 8 with 4 fingers. I looked closely at her beautiful face so as to remember it clearly as possible. And then I closed my eyes as well, turning them inwards and concentrating them on a point between my eyebrows. I thought I heard her moan softly and mutter. Then I felt someone nearby standing beside me, and then I was aware of nothing more because spiral currents caused my first head and then my body to vibrate, and I began to sway to and fro like a pendulum. A metal tube with a revolving inside appeared in front of me, and I felt myself passing through it, slowly at first, then more rapidly. At the end of the narrow tunnel, a faint blue light began to glimmer. Then I found myself running along a narrow passageway in which was a gallery of glass like that in my childhood home, but much longer and filled with the pictures in wooden frames and furniture that I thought I recognized I ran faster because I knew that I must hurry to reach the end of the passageway before the door closed, or because I wouldn't be able to retain the image of this gallery in my mind for much longer, or to continue imagining it, because all of this in some way was taking place in my imagination. Since I was able to imagine something that really existed somewhere in someone else's imagination as well as in my own. Finally, I managed to get out of myself and found myself standing on a patio bathed in a mobile, transfigured light like the light of dusk or dawn, a light from another universe, a newborn light. A young girl was carving statues. A man's voice sang, "This time of golden fruits is long past. The frozen stone, the cold wind that comes from the sea. Oh, friendly hearts, where have you gone? Old home awaits us in vain." And that is from Nos, the book of resurrection. Nos, the book of resurrection. And that's the handwriting of the great Min Magic Mindy. And let us turn down the lights. And after that wonderful reading, let me tell you, the path of Amor. That's why we all love Miguel Serrano and Irene Serrano. I mean, there's just too much light, lady. We're going to have to go with the darker, huh? Maria, who's here with us. People like, "You're crazy." Well, we're going to skip that part because it's very logical, actually. And we just kind of, it's very logical that someone can get very good at leaving their body because one reason is the body on Venus is made to leave. If you wonder, what the fuck do we do with these goddamn dumb masses? Well, we what? Sing it to me, Joseph. If blood and hate taste so sweet, we give 'em what they want, right? If money and shiny things and fancy name brands and then you can go into a simulation and live it up, nigga. Um, and they guarantee you, if you've been to the Earth holographic simulation, that our simulation is just as real. It's based on the same technology, which is what? What this? I mean, we're never going to get off this point. And, this is what causes the true enemies to come out of the woodwork. Um, our enemies are stuck here and reason they are is the entire, as you would think about it in 2026, computer program is based on the natural law, the natural fact, the natural reality, whatever you want to call it, of eternal return. And Maria wants you to know, Western civilization woman, you're not allowed to be, with her, part of her, if you pick and choose what she said, you're free to do that. But the Vril Society is about groups of people who vibrate similarly. And we don't in any way hate or envy or distance ourselves from people who don't vibrate like us, except there's different levels of vibrations called the chakras. It's just a way of organizing energy, you know, vibration, which is essentially music, good or bad. And the casts on Venus, they go by this essence vibration and they separate people, but it's not an essential separation. It's as easy as going across a bridge in your reality. And I was going to say reality, as defined as what actually happens, what can be agreed on in a very simple, basic way of what happened, right? Whether you're in a dream, a matrix, or the physical reality, pretty much any normal person is interested not in what you think the author's intent, not what your opinion, but what actually happened. And like we said, we're just going to flow like a river. There's a book by a famous I guess he's considered a libertarian, Patrick Buchanan, called The Unnecessary War, about how Germany was not the aggressor in World War II. It's a clever trick they want to play on you, just like they're trying to play on you in Ukraine, right? By trying to hide the Maidan revolution. Read that. That's CIA all the way. Don't tell me that the bankers, aren't involved with Ukraine. And I'm no fan of Russia, but I'm no fan of lying, murdering. Like we're saying, what's simple is what happened. You went in there, you kill people. You do it all the time, all the time. The point of the book, Unnecessary War. I mean, she's like, the whole book could be summed up in two words: unnecessary war. And because when you read the events of reality, what actually happened, you're like, oh my God, of course, World War I didn't end. And just like, not exactly, but in a similar way, they took this, it rings bells of Palestine, right? It rings bells of Ukraine. They took part of Germany, Danzig, the major city, and after World War I, because they were desperately wanting to divide Germany up on the art of war simplicity of divide and conquer. Divide and then conquer each smaller enemy. And I'm not going to explain the whole thing because that's what the book explains. This whole thing about what they don't want to ever tell you about this incident, sorry, at the German radio station with the Polish soldiers and blah blah blah. They don't ever want to tell you they had killed thousands of people in Danzig, thousands of Germans for being German, for revenge from World War One. So to think, oh, it's got to be a false flag. Why would you think that they're openly killing these Germans in Danzig day and night, house to house? That's a fact. And people like, well, they should have just sat there and let their brothers be murdered, like the Donbass and down there in Ukraine, where after the Maidan revolution in 2014, they were going house to house, murdering people. Because who trained these people? Oh, the bankers trained them. And I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of saying it. I'm so sick of it. Sick of turning like I heard the comedian Dave Smith and Maria's like, go ahead, just talk. Saying like this fucking story's getting old, man. We have the fucking president of the United States literally before a camera going, I guess it's our habit, to have these giant wars in the Middle East and kill. Oh, how many Iraqis did you kill? Oh, a couple million. That ain't shit, man. They ain't white. Dude, I mean, listen, white people. Because some white people think like that, clearly shows that we're like every other race. So stop with the I'm proud of being Jewish Christian. Christian is Jewish, Candace. Christian is Jewish. I know you think you're way above me, just like everyone else that believes in God. They're like, hey, stupid, we're connected to a universal thing. Then why can't you do anything with it? If the universe is a person, then why won't the universe help babies? Because let me tell you, nigga, it's not. You're the universe. But you can go on with the charade. Because who are we to stop you? And I sound mad. I sound unhappy, but I am because of I want things to be better feeling in the world in general. I know that's a pretty big thing. And it just came out of me, beyond thought. Me and Maria, we talk a lot. I know it sounds crazy, but she comes. We've been doing this for over a year now. Basically 7 days a week. I see her, and every night we meet. But I mean, we didn't start doing that till a year ago. But before that, I'd see her once a week, and it's it's predictable. It's our habit. I was just, it's almost like I said, beyond words. But, way back then, she said to me, why has the population of the white race declined in the last 100 years from 30% of the world to 7% of the world, or maybe 8 or 9 at the most. A 2/3 loss. And she said, who's in control of the global economic system? I said, well, they call themselves Jews, but they're not. They're white people, genetically. And anyone out there is like, but they're not pure. Neither are you. Actually, from the get-go, the smaller man never had so-called pure blood, because from the change from the giants and basically extinction of people, what they really can't explain in the Matrix is there's just like a time gap between the giants and the smaller man. Wherever they find giants, skeletons and shit, they're like, dude, this is older than anything we've ever seen. Usually they just turn to dust and blow away. No bullshit. I mean, there's a lot of accounts where they're like, yeah, we found this, it was giant, but it was so old, it was completely disintegrated. And I can hear Maria saying that's because the spirits, the soul, the essence of that person went and imprinted in the stones that will last forever. And that's why we're so, attracted, some people, to these old, like, shamans, and people who sense energy, as my friend says, are attracted to these places. They're like, I just supposed to go there. And when they go there, there's something different energy wise, about the place. I went to, in Missouri, or right across the river in Illinois, across the Missouri and Mississippi, right? You cross the Missouri and you cross the Mississippi River. Look this up, people out there. There is the Piasa bird. I think it's like Piacas, maybe, or something like that. Piasa bird in this giant cave. And people very much are almost absolutely sure this is the cave that Lewis and Clark, the first white expeditioners in, I don't know, thousands of years or something, because we know white people were over here. The white giants lived here. And this is how we know, as far as, stories that are interesting. Just driving on the highway, you look up and there's this giant painted like dragon, winged dragon, kind of it's got even like a lion head, I think, lioness kind of head, I think. A tail, like a lion tail, these wings, dragon. It has like scales on its body. It's like water, air, earth, and fire all together, this dragon thing. And the actual one that's painted there now is a replica that was actually down a little ways. And if you go down a little ways, you can very, very lightly see the real one that was painted. They say it could have been thousands of years ago. And Lewis and Clark was like, there's all kinds of shit painted all over these caves, that I guess are gone now. But this big central one, I guess they kept restoring the Indians. And they're, carrying a boat and shit up the river. So they meet these Indians at this sort of like shamanistic cave complex known as Alton, Illinois. Alton. Check it out. Look it up. Piasa Bird, Alton, Illinois. And I grew up 10 minutes from there. I live now like 20 minutes from there. I've been there 50 times or more. Eagles go there. It's across from a natural eagle gathering place and right up the river from the confluence of the Missouri and Mississippi River. Now check this out. Lou and Maria both have told me these were the cremation grounds of the giants. The arch, where the arch is now, which is kind of in some like astrological alignment with the Cahokia Mounds. And that was the largest cremation ground. But there was also other cremation grounds that were nearly as large, and there were places where nearby, this was the city of death in a good way, the city of Lucifer, city of light. St. Louis means Saint Light, city of light. In Lewis and Clark, they believe it was these caves that anybody can go to right now. Even the fence doesn't stop you. You can walk into the caves. They're super high. They're crazy. They're wild. And we had been going there since we were kids. Smoked some of the first, herb we ever had there. And Lewis and Clark said these Indians were like, you have to come see this. This was here when we got here. Okay, that's very important. It's important for the Matrix because, listen, all the time, this is very important to understand what we're saying if you really want to understand it. The time of the giants does not simulate in the holographic matrix. Only the time of the small man. So it makes perfect sense because this is what and how this can be with Lewis and Clark. The Indians were like, you have to come see. This was the burial ground of the people who lived here before us. And this is where they kept their mummified bodies, some of them, but most were burned, but some were mummified. And this is where they would bring their bones. They would not burn the bones. They had a process like Mithras. It's called the Tower of Silence. Look this up. How they killed their dead and they would let the birds, they cremated some, like I said, but they also had different ways of cremating and saving the bones. But they also had this, because there was many different sects of the giants. And they totally did what the Mithras Zoroastrian people did in putting the bodies out for the birds, the vultures to eat, then taking the bones, cleansing them with fire, but not burning them all the way, just cleansing them with fire, putting them through the fire, and then setting them in like a flow system from some running water, like a river. This is what they were doing. This is what they were doing out in Alton, and they were taking the bones after they were like cleaned and went through this water for a long time, where it extracted like most of the minerals and shit out of the bones. Then they would go store them in this cave in Alton, and the Indians brought. This is in Lewis and Clark's book. You can check it out. The caves, and they don't call it Alton. And there's only literally they only write a couple sentences, and it says this. Basically says these crazy Indians who are telling us this wild ass story about how this dragon had to protect them from the spirits of these giants that lived here long time ago. They said, and we were taught that our ancestors fought like a war with them that ended the world, basically. For real. And they had, they had a way of respecting their dead by storing the bones in this cave way back. And they came and showed Lewis and Clark, and they said like 4 foot high for as long as you could see, for who knows how long into this cave. They said were stacks of bones. Literally, Lewis and Clark said must have been millions of people. And you have to remember the giants, they had like 1 or 2 children. They didn't have giant families, like 10 people and shit. He said there was millions, and he said the bones, like they had some examples of the bones the Indians did just to show them the size. And he said some of the leg bones and torsos were at least twice our size. Twice. And I'm like, that's crazy because Lou, he's 10'8" when he's not imagining himself smaller. And we're just hanging out. It's Friday night. Right? And we want you to remember who you are, to recover what's been lost, the vril, it's like in a practical way, once that door is open, the vril is flowing, and it's just like I can't explain to people how I know I know how these things are happening, or it's happening in real time. So it's hard to explain to someone how it can be real as you're experiencing it, right? And I mean, it is totally, the experience of this other energy field, the astral world that, like, what I'm trying to say is once, like, your chakras are opened in a practical, real way where you're like, oh, that's what's meant by Kundalini. Or that's what's meant, I said Kundalini, that's what's meant by chakra, open chakra. And listen, we're not Hindus. We're not, so it's not natural. We weren't born into that. We weren't, Yeah, it's not assumed by our family. So, um, in the Western person, it's like you hear that, and the experience of it is hard to is it's hard to it may be linked together inside of you perfectly, but it's hard to show someone else like, okay, we're using a Indian religion to try to explain my culture that's not Indian, but very similar, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's oh, it almost makes me dizzy, and it makes me, like how do we do this? And well, Maria's here, and she's like, by telling your story, Joseph. And yeah, the unnecessary war, right? Like I said, I don't want to explain it, but we see the same thing going on today. No matter what Iran did, it was devoted to destruction, as the Bible says. You know, and let us join astral hands and send out some vril energy and greet everyone from Iran that is being murdered and clicked over into a much better reality. Absolutely. Anyone innocently, horrifically murdered, if there's any justice anywhere, this is what we know. The imaginer of this world, he's done, as we would say, imagined a place, for us when we die, so to speak, because nothing really dies. And we want you to know, and we might come back, but we want you to know that we love you.
Underneath the moon sky, feel the vibe. Island breezes whisper low like the live tribe. Nana dance through the night, heart so free. With every swaying step, she's a melody. Roots in the sun, the only guide. When Nana guide us home. Through waters wild, to love we roam. River of Amor, flowing through our veins. True self-reflected in love's strong chains. Together we rise, wash away the stains. Our souls intertwined, dancing in refrains. In the sunshine we never lost, just found echoes of laughter, we move to that sound. Colors of the sunset paint the ocean deep with not a spirit viv, but wake, never sleep. Unity we rise, no need to hide. The river speaks, it knows our name. Through every wave, one thought to reclaim. River of Amor, flowing through our veins. True self-reflected in love's strong chains. Together we rise, wash away the stains. Our souls intertwined, dancing in refrains. River of Amor, flowing through our veins. True self-reflected in love's strong chains. Together we rise, wash away the stains. Our souls intertwined, dancing in refrains. Sunflower, Sita, and you shine forever bright. In the rhythm of love, we ignite.